Welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. We decided to stream it live because of some technical difficulties. So to get the content out to you, our viewer, as quickly as possible, we decided to just stream it live. So this will actually make things faster, and again, we encourage everybody to watch us on twitch.tv/smAsho. That's twitch.tv/smAsho. To be able to see the live streams, because occasionally we talk about some very time-sensitive stuff. So, first of all, we see an Earth-facing coronal mass ejection, one hitting the Earth as we make the video. Small one, nothing to write home about. And this one here is pretty small and stealthy also, not a big deal. We'll show you all about it in a minute. First, we're going to look at the full disk here in 193 angstroms. Small diffuse coronal hole there south of the equator, and an active region rising both up here, and that's cycle 25, and down here. That's cycle 24, and we'll show you a slightly more zoomed in view momentarily here. We'll let that 193 angstroms view play through one more time. That's 48 hours, folks. And here's a 94 angstroms view. This takes more images than the 193 angstroms view. And that takes 10 images per minute instead of only 2, providing 5 times more temporal resolution, you could call it, right? Now, to look at the LASCO images, you want to type into a search engine, such as DuckDuckGo.com, Soho Movie Theater, and that'll bring you to this page, and you just put in your dates, and you can see that coronal mass ejection out this way, largely missing the Earth to the west, although we do see some ejecta over here as well. So this will probably be a glancing blow as the Earth is rotating around the Sun in this direction. So is that too many arrows? So in any case, the Earth is in some respect chasing down that coronal mass ejection in that way. This is different than when they miss to the east, as you know, the Earth isn't going this way. So yeah, that's the LASCO C2 there. That's the zoomed in version, and we also have the C3 loaded up for you. There's the LASCO C3. And the majority of that coronal mass ejection does indeed look like it'll miss to the west. But again, we do see a little bit of diffuse ejecta on the east side of the coronagraph here. So now we've got some zoom-ins. I'm going to just hit refresh real quick. We've got some zoom-ins of these areas. So here's the Earth scale. And you can see those active regions rising. There's the 171 angstroms view. And that's probably not a sunspot, and that one, I guess, is probably a sunspot. And let's just zoom out, show you the magnetic fields, which are aligning a little bit here. We see a little bit of magnetic groupings like this. So that's something to keep an eye on throughout the day. And the pun's intentional, yes. So here's a Helio viewer movie from that same area, folks. And it's a pretty good one. And we will get some amazing content coming to you soon as cycle 25 ramps up into higher and higher levels of activity, showing you things like crown prominences and filamentary behavior and plasma splashing back down onto the chromosphere and things like that. So there's a 304 angstroms view, and there's the polar view of the same. Let me get my face off of there. As there's some filamentary activity up there, also we do see some plasma in these areas. And that's part of the reason why the North Pole coronal hole area looks not very holy, because there's a bunch of plasma there in between you and them. And let's move on to more stuff. The KP index currently at 1, having a little bit of activity kicked up. 10.7 centimeter radial flux still at 71. X-ray flux quite flatlined. And we're going to look at some transients here. First, Sagittarius A star. Sagittarius A star, the core of the galaxy, has been kicking up in X-ray activity a little bit over the past about 15 days. And there you can see the activity right in this. These are days 45 through 60. And you can see this one here is actually quite a high historic level. And you can see the baseline is fairly low. We don't really see a whole lot of X-ray coming all the way to the Earth from Sagittarius A star. Let's look at another object, the Crab pulsar. As the Crab pulsar is an extremely consistent X-ray source that we use to calibrate things like telescopes. And there you can see Crab is at a fairly normal level here, around 22 it looks like. So that's looking pretty normal over there at Crab, which would be kind of to the right side of the galactic core. And let's look at Cygnus X3, which is over toward the left side, and a completely different type of object. This is a high mass X-ray binary. For all you new viewers, if you weren't aware of that. And how is the stream going? It looks pretty healthy. Please leave a comment if you're viewing, and we'll get to them by the end. So this is the most interesting one of all, as we see this returning back to its loud state. As this object goes to a quiescent state, and then it comes back to a loud state around 0.03. So here's the baseline. And here's where Cygnus X3 has been for a long time, way down here. So seeing this thing come back up is a great opportunity for radio astronomers especially, but all bandwidth, to observe this object, as it is one of the only known point sources for cosmic rays. Cygnus X3, the star Deneb, the tail of the swan. And let's see if we can load the cosmic ray site. We were having some problems earlier. Our patrons already know all about it, as we had a convo about it. So if you want to learn about that stuff, become a patron. I believe we included all tiers there, including the $1 and $9.99 a month, as well as that's $9.99 a month, as well as the subscribe star. So anybody who's paying us anything would have gotten the information about that cosmic ray. It was a cosmic ray at Moscow. Moscow neutron monitors showed a cosmic ray at 20% higher than normal levels. So it was so big that it expanded the graph, and then the site stopped working. Fortunately, we took a screenshot of it, and again, if you were a paid patron or subscribe star person, you would already have the ability to find out about it. In any case, let's reload the real-time solar wind here. And this is the coronal mass ejection that's hitting the magnetosphere right now. As you can see, the density and speed have jumped up at the same time that the BT, BZ, and phi angle all shift. So that's a characteristic of a coronal mass ejection. Probably a small one, as the density only peaked around 15 protons per cubic centimeter there. Anyway, current levels are more like 7.2 protons. Solar wind speed 343. Current phi angle 114 degrees. And we see a BT-BZ shift once again going on as I speak. So that's something to keep an eye on. To keep an eye on that top pane up there, as when you see these diverge, the BT is the total field, and the BZ is the orientation of the field to a pole. So if you see this drop way down, that means most of the total field is coming from that pole. And it looks like it's going into highly powerful South Pole magnetic field connection there. Here's the latest data from ACE. And you can see those same shifts happening there. We like when the data corroborates. So here's the Geospace Magnetosphere movie, and this is 4 hours of data. We try to look at it daily. And there you can see that small coronal mass ejection hitting right around 8:30 universal time. And we would let that play again, but there is too much stuff to cover today, as there will be more content coming. And it's a secret as to where. Next, we're going to look at magnetic perturbations on the ground, a little closer to home here. And you see these spiral-type patterns at the poles. You can kind of see where the geomagnetic north poles are. And if you're wondering, they're kind of like east of Greenland, over towards Svalbard would be the net, as we've got two poles, one over the Siberian area and one over the eastern Canadian area. And then you can see the South Pole, especially in the global view here, as it's creeping toward southwestern Australia, kind of like this. And we'll let that play through and move on, as there is still lots of stuff to cover. It's been an interesting news cycle, to say the least. So don't go anywhere. And don't call your priest. Not yet. Unless you really feel the need to, then whatever. Ghost magnetometer still looking spiky here, and this was forecasted completely. And you can see it got spiky enough that the Ghost 16 even shut down. And we're expecting to see this climb to pretty high levels once again today and remain fairly irregular in shape, as smooth bell curves indicate, a more consistent output by the sun. Next, we'll look at the top view ecliptic plane field plot on the Gong 2 data. And this is one of the crowd favorites here, as this gives us all kinds of insights into what's going on the sun by using a lot of magnetometers, both on Earth and on stereo B, which is this. That's where stereo B is, and this over here is stereo A. And the reason it's called A is because it's seeing space weather ahead of us. This is called B because it's seeing space weather behind us, giving us a more complete picture of the sun, although not a complete one at all. And yes, we will be talking about the Parker Solar Probe and the ESA Solar Orbiter 2 mission. Super excited about those. Here's the line of sight field plot, and you can see how large that coronal hole, the South Pole coronal hole, is. And that is why the coronal hole, that is why the South Pole is in charge of the current sheet. And you can kind of see the way the B field is being curved over here. It's normally more like this. And the B field is shown in blue for you new viewers who've never seen this before. Relativistic electrons are at more like moderate levels now, you could say. And we never got into warning levels yesterday as forecasted. We won't get into warning levels today either. It's going to be a proton light. And proton light means no electron flux warnings. So here's the total electron content forecast. And I'm just rocking that back and forth to show that GPS errors will be minimal now today around the equator, even at noon. So next I'm going to reload the ionosphere movie. And that's 6 hours of data. Again, if you're viewing this on YouTube or on BitChute, you could have seen it live if you just watched twitch.tv/smAsho. The Twitch streaming platform is so good that it's what we choose to use. And it's not only because of the quality of the software, but that's part of it. Some slight anomalies here in the South Pacific that we've been covering for months. And let's move on to more data. Did you watch our video about that is an A and that is a hole in the ground, warning explicit language and general grossness? Here's a teaser. Exact is ATM. You don't want to know if anyway if you're feeling if you're feeling queasy, don't watch the video. Hint, it's meth. Also, follow us on BitChute if you don't. We've got all kinds of exclusive content over there in various subject matters. So check that out. It's doing fantastically. Thanks for everybody who subscribed there. And again, don't forget to check us out on Twitch. And don't go anywhere, folks, as there's lots more stuff to cover. Please consider becoming a patron. And our patrons and our Subscribe Star folk are going to know firsthand that we covered cosmic ray stuff without doing this video, as these videos are only part of our mission, so please help fund it and get the information first by heading to subscribestar.com/smashomash or perhaps patreon.com/smashomash. And let's get back to data. Looking at the pressure maps here on windy.com. I'm going to let that advance 24 hours. Windy.com has a great mobile app, by the way. Perhaps install that on your smartphone. It's free. And there's where things will be at about 1 p.m. my time tomorrow. And if you're wondering where I am, it's right about here at the index finger, located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Next, we'll do the earthquake rundown. And oftentimes, our viewers are finding out at the same time I am what's going on with earthquakes. Looks like nothing over a 6 magnitude over the past 24. Here's a deep one at the Fiji Islands, the earthquake capital of the world. It's a 4.7 magnitude at 483 kilometers depth. Here's an extremely shallow quake at 1,900 meters above sea level. Another volcanic quake, and it looks like it's under Mauna Loa. We've been seeing quakes directly under the caldera, the main caldera, and this is no exception. Oh, that's directly under a sub-caldera, so that could be a spot where a new fissure would open. You can see the way those caldera are dispersed down the southern flank of Mauna Loa. Excuse me. And let's get back to the list here, as it looks like a little uptick here. We've got another deep quake in Indonesia. And these are my favorite spots. I'm going to draw it on the map real quick for you like I used to do it. These are my favorite spots for a large surface quake, as we've been seeing deep quakes in those areas regularly. So please have an earthquake plan if you're there, as we want you to be an asset, not a liability, if buildings start to crumble. For instance, know which ones might crumble. That's preparation in itself without even having a bug-out bag. Here's a quake in Greece. And I did see Stromboli was back on the list, having erupted for the last couple of days. Didn't happen to catch it. Next we see 5.6. I think that's the largest of the past 24, and it's at depth at the Philippines. So just drew a circle right around that area, and indeed more deep quakes coming from there. And just scrolling up the list here, scrolling. There's a deep quake at Colombia, very far north on South America. Next, here are some facts according to the CDC. Take that with a grain of salt or perhaps a truckload. 1. Someone who's completed the quarantine or has been released from isolation does not pose a risk of infection to other people. I don't know. The risk of getting COVID-19 in the U.S. is low. I don't know. Diseases can make anyone sick regardless of their race or ethnicity. I don't know. Fact 4. You can help stop COVID-19 by knowing the signs and symptoms. Correct. Fact 5. There are simple things you can do to keep yourself healthy, like wash your hands and cover your mouth with a tissue if you sneeze, and then throw the tissue in the trash and things like that. Anyway, we've got a massive repository of information about COVID-19. It's at smashomash.com/forum. And we're pushing 7 pages of information now. Here's largely what was just put up today, as we have been massively gathering data about this and putting it picking up stories all from all over different internet sites and putting it all in one spot. It's smashomash.com/forum. Current confirmed cases at 83,719 according to the Johns Hopkins, 83,704 according to Johns Hopkins. Total deaths up to 28,559. And here's the current graph. Looks like it's still kind of flat in China, and sadly this bottom graph here, the yellow one, locations besides China continues to rise, folks. So the good news is that the U.S. economy is by far the best economy now. And I mean, look, I'm not somebody that was touting the economy in a Trump-esque style. I was with Peter Schiff on this. But looking at the numbers on things like bonds and precious metals, U.S. currency is still, listen, China is a paper tiger, folks. China is a paper tiger. We've also got nutrition stuff on smashamash.com/forum, as we usually break down the space weather into a human health section. And we just put up one about methylsulfonylmethane. If you're not aware of that, go have yourself a read. Also, updated and shout out to Terry once again. We got a long section about autophagy and fasting benefits. Timeline chart is the thread that's under. New study, yet another one. What enhances your immune system and helps you live longer? Caloric restriction, folks. It's true. It's true. Try it out. You might be amazed at the instant results you get. Volcano rundown, including Kluchevskoye, back on the list, producing a 20,000-foot ash plume. Abiko, 6,000-foot plume there. And we saw stratospheric eruptions from, I believe, both of those in 2019. Mount Aso erupting, producing a 5,000-foot plume. Popocatépetl exploding, 19,000-foot plume. Sangay exploding, 20,000-foot plume. Sabancaya unable to detect. Please don't pitch a tent on the lower slopes of Sabancaya or attempt to pole vault the caldera. We see some heavy lightning coming down in somewhere. I don't know, is that Croatia? I don't freaking know. Anyway, check out lightningmaps.org if you want to look for yourself. And it looks like we're getting some more snow. Hopefully falling where I am, as I've been asking for snow. And by the way, David Schlottower, get back to me, man. We'll do a meteorology section featuring you and your awesome forecasting. Hit me up on Skype. It's at smAsho. Here's the jet streams of the Eastern world, centered on India. Check this one out. It's a serious clockwise rotating low pressure. And another one right on the coast. And here's the Western world. Holy jeez-o cripes! Man, look at the bends in the jet stream. Serious bends in the jet stream there over the Atlantic Ocean especially, as it splits into 3 or 4 jet streams. Man, oh man. Well, it's a good time not to fly across oceans. How about it? Here is the water vapor map for Africa and Europe, and here's the water vapor map for the US. And I'm liking this area of dry air. The atmosphere got mopped up right here. We're going to show you a zoom into that. As their pressure rises over Arkansas. Is that pressure on Hillary Clinton to run for president? Oh, geez. Don't make me disappear, Hillary. I was just kidding. Thanks, Smash Team. Tune in, stay tuned for a bonus feature. Make it 2. Hey, guess what? No sunspots. At least not yet, but keep watching that eastern limb. And guess what? Not a lot of magnetic activity going on. Although, again, it is kicking up. Look, we see a spot here with some organization. One here, and again, some active regions rising on the east. And stay tuned for one other, a bonus, a feature. How about the 131 angstroms view? Crowd favorite. Let's see if we have any chats. No chats, at least not on the Twitch. Thanks everybody who tuned in. If you tuned in on BitChute, if you tuned in on YouTube, if you tuned in on Twitch, if this was a highlight, if this was the highlight of your day. Don't forget to stare at the sun. Use the proper instruments like the SDO. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back. And that atherosclerosis absent from your arteries.